audio is better in live stream. Don't know why, but what is that? Can we do anything here? Oh, this was all the way up. This should have been in the middle. Now audio will be fine. How is this audio now? Because the setting was off on one of the things and it should not be echoing anymore. Now it is right in the middle. Yeah, that's all it was. It was this one, you see. One is this one. If you come closer, I'll show you. This one, adjust speaker volume. This one should be all the way on high, okay? Whereas this one, adjust microphone volume, should be in the middle. It should not go from this middle. Yeah. So there are two, and now it will be just fine. So it was, yeah.
Well, does turning the computer volume on or adjust either one of those? Because if not, we can just leave the settings.
No, it's fine. It should not. I think it was just inadvertently. This is the setting. The setting that never changes.
Okay.
Yeah. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Tejasvina Tamastu Ma Vidvishabhai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the lovers also depart from their respective homes out of desire and not out of knowledge, out of desire for each other rather than the desire for knowledge. The chora, the thief, and the thieves depart from their homes out of deceit rather than the desire for knowledge, out of fear rather than trust. One more, I can't resist to go back to the thief bit and bring in one more comparison. Thieves are nocturnal, correct? They do all their nefarious, because they are doing nefarious activities, they only choose the stealth and the dark of the night. Ratri, the night, midnight, is their best friend. The sun is their enemy. Correct? Because it's in the night that they are active, like owls and other animals. And so, the Bhagavad Gita has a very interesting, verse which says towards the end of the second chapter, Ya Nisha Sarva Bhutanam Tasyam Jagarti Sanyami. That which is night to everybody, in that night the Jnani, the sannyasi is awake. Yasyam Jagrati Bhutani Sa Nisha Pashyato Munehe. So in that day, in that light of that day where everybody is active, that becomes the night for the seer, for the seeing sannyasi. Very interesting. So in the beginning you think, what is this? Is the sannyasi doing some nefarious activities? What is this day and night? So the day and night and the sannyasi is active at night. It's just a very nice parody, because unto that reality to which the sannyasi is awake, the jnani is awake, everyone is fast asleep. And to that vyavaharik, samsaric reality to which the masses, which is the daytime for the masses, that is completely irreverent, or irrelevant for the sannyasi. The jnani doesn't even look at that. So that's like a very interesting parody as well, because the night for the sannyasi is the complete non-seeing of the divisions. Yeah, because we wake up in the morning full of divisions. The sannyasi wakes up to a life of cognitively understood non-division. So that day and night play was again brought out here. So I think all this Narahari must be thinking when he makes this comparison. And the lovers, they cannot remain without each other, therefore they leave everything. They are also great Vairagis, but here the sannyasi also is a lover of what? The self. Yeah, the lover of the self and the lover of another self. That's the very nice combination here, very nice contrast. Lover of oneself for the sake of the self departs from the house, and then the lovers depart for the sake of one another. Then those are the groups of people, lovers and thieves. Now the singulars. Kruddhas tyajati geham swam prativadi virodhatah. Prativadi virodhatah. Kruddha means the angry one. In anger, abandons and leaves the house. Kruddha, prativadina, virodhatah, one meaning. Opposed by, because he or she, the angry person, is in opposition to everybody in the house, correct? So opposed by everybody in the house, gets very angry and leaves. Like the teenager running away from home. Why? Because could not have his or her own way. So that is one meaning. And the other meaning is also alright, that prativadhi virodhatah means out of a desire to wreak vengeance on all the people. Leaves the house in anger. The angry person is so angry that leaves the house in order to plan a revenge or eke some revenge, planning some revenge for the people and harassing them. Prativadhi virodhatah kruddhah tyajati geham swam. So the angry person is not at peace living in the house. Because you are so angry, you just want to say bye-bye. In fact, you don't even say bye-bye, You just go away. And then what happens? And then you just, because you cannot stand it. Sannyasi also goes away because the sannyasi cannot stand it. Stand what? Withstand what? Withstand one's own, what's that? Distance, so to speak, from that knowledge, or the abidance in oneself is not possible. The sannyasi knows while living in the house is very difficult because there are so many egos to placate, there are bills to be paid, things to do, you have to, paint the blessed house, you have to make sure that all kinds of things are there, and then, you have to pay the taxes, you have to pay the bills, and after you've done everything and then you sit down to have a cup of tea, then you see a line of ants coming straight at you. And so, you are their target. And so, this is what the situation is. And so therefore, kruddha, the angry person also, does that, and then the angry person leaves the house out of a complete disgust. Why? Because their ragadveshas are not fulfilled. The sannyasi leaves the house because of feeling unfulfilled with the status quo, which is stopping one from being completely committed to oneself. Because the vairagya has overtaken this whole desire to take care of things that need to be taken care of. And here a caveat, because, the person who doesn't want to clean the house will also think I have great vairagya. Yeah, I have great vairagya, I don't need to clean. That's why everything is lying everywhere, because there is great vairagya. And that's why, I have to bring this out, because we have skipped a section which discussed that. What was that? Preparation and dharma jignasa. We have skipped section number 5, which would have discussed that. And so here the maturity, so the vairagya is not about the action itself. It's not about either leaving the house or living in it. It's not about cleaning the house or not, but it's about what is the motivation because of which something is done. So the sannyasi does not leave the house in anger or disgust or fear, or because one cannot fulfill the raga dveshas while staying in the house, therefore one is going to go somewhere else, like the lovers, the paramas, does not leave the house for any of those reasons, leaves the house for an entirely different reason. It is a outcome of the emotional maturity where the house along with other things drop off. So kruddha, so the angry person leaves the house. See, this is the contrast. The lovers leave the house in order to fulfill their ragas for each other, and the angry person leaves the house because his or her ragas were not able to be fulfilled. So either it is a pratikara, it's like against or for something else. That is not the idea. That is not. So na bodhataha. So the one who leaves the house bodhataha is the one that is important, is the one that is being talked about here. And then what? One more person. Ruddha tyajati geham swam rodhe naiva na bodhataha. Ruddha means the incarcerated person has also left the house. And there are many things in common with the sannyasi and the incarcerated person. Both of them live in a small room. Yeah. Both of them live in a small room. And both of them just, have what is called a cell. Except the sannyasi, you have to add an F to the cell, self. And so the incarcerated person has to be content with the cell, with his or her own cell. The sannyasi is naturally content with his or her own self. That's all. Yeah. That's the main thing. And then sannyasi also has a bowl and a little glass of water to drink. And in India, when people get incarcerated, when they go behind the bar, what happens? Each one is given a plate and a cup. And then when you join the order in the ashram, you're also given a plate and a cup. Because kamandalus are very expensive now. Kamandalus, that fancy water pot, Pujya Swamiji had one, it had a little silver mouth and everything. And so that fancy water pot with a handle is made of some kind of a palm tree gourd. From Africa, it used to come to the shores of India. From Seychelles, it used to come. And then, that gourd would be hollowed out and made into this little thing, and the handle had to be put, and the spout had to be attached. And now, that gourd is not coming because Seychelles decided to sell, it themselves. They started to use it for something else. Now we don't see so many of them coming, so the kamandalu became very expensive. So nobody is given kamandalu at sannyasa, but you get a plate and a water jug, water bowl. Yeah, and so the incarcerated person, Kaidi number 420, what is that? The Kaidi means the incarcerated person. What is that? 420, the number 420. 420 is a number of mischief, so that's what it is. That's why it is so. And so then this person is also handed a cup and a plate. So that they have to, and then during meal times the bell rings in the prison, in the penitentiary, and also in the zenitentiary. Yeah, in both places, ding 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 ding, meal times. And then if you're a good prisoner, what do you have to do? You get your plate and cup and go stand in line, and then get the food. Here also the sannyasis stand in line for the bhiksha, and in the ashrams where the bhiksha is being distributed, in the zenitentiary, the bell rings, ding 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 ding. Okay, you catch hold of your plate and your cup and you go stand in line. And the penitentiary has basic simple meals. Yeah. Dal and rice one day, next day what? Rice and dal. And then here what? In the zenitentiary, what's the food? Rice and dal one day, another day, dal and rice. Simple food in both the places. You see how confusing this is? Yeah. Terribly confusing. And the incarcerated person, there, has to be content with a few books, few belongings, because all the belongings have been relieved and have, whether they have phones or expensive gadgets, tablets, etc., all that has been taken away, and they're just given their medication and they're just given their basic things, whatever they need. One pillow, one blankie, and one bed, that's it. Basic needs. And the sannyasi also lives with basic needs. That's the thing. What is the difference? Big difference. One is free despite the quote-unquote incarceration, whatever incarceration one can see in the similarities. In the sannyasi's life, they are in a small room, they just have their cup of water and their plate, and they are also eating rice, roti, dal, and the other one is also doing that. But they are free. And then what? The arrested person, Ruddha means arrested, by who? The lawmakers. So stopped, the one who has been stopped, Niruddha. So the person who is incarcerated is what? Is completely, the incarceration is more in the mind rather than physically. And this is there, this is seen, we see sometimes, the people who are incarcerated come out and write books about it. And they say that, and in some of these books when you read, and some books have been also made into films to show the people what really this incarceration is all about. And what do we find when we read these books? Very inspiring. And what we find is that in the beginning they were resisting everything in the penitentiary. They were resisting what they needed to do, and they felt it was unfair, either because they were in denial of their problems or because of what? They felt like, or they really hadn't done anything and they were wrongly incarcerated. And so they were just in so much turmoil, and it takes a few years to settle down, sometimes more than a few years. And then what? Once they settle down, they understand one thing. All of them unanimously say, 4 walls do not a prison make, neither do the bars of a cage. What one is a prisoner of is one's ragadveshas. The ragadveshas are the arresting forces, really. And they are the ones that capture you, hijack you, and hold you, ransom, so that you will do as they say. So the sannyasi doesn't have that. Even if you put the sannyasi in a self, the sannyasi will still be contemplating on the self, in the cell. That is how it is. And in fact, this is what happened. There was all this movement against cow slaughter in the 70s, and tons of sannyasis went from Haridwar, Rishikesh, and the railway, made them have free travel, so they could just come. They got on the train. It's only 5 hours, 4-5 hours. So they just came down from Rishikesh and Haridwar to Delhi, and taking this 4-hour journey. And then they protested in front of the parliament, and all of them were thrown in jail. And much to the government's chagrin, they found that more and more people came the next day and the day after that, and then nobody knew what was happening. One of them even came to Pujya Swamiji and said, "Come to protest with us for cow slaughter." Swamiji said, "Why? Why are you going in drones? What's happening?" And that sannyasi said to Swamiji, "You don't know the benefits of this. They just arrest you without any cause, and then you can, no classes to take, nothing. You can have just aram se, you can stay in one room, nobody bothers you. You just have your Gita, you study your Gita, food comes. It's the same as in the ashram anyway. And, you eat the food, they give you a blanket, you just sleep. And if you get sick, they have to take you to the doctor. You don't have to worry and find benefactors to fund your health. You just are wonderful." And this is the prison, that man said, who had been released after 3-4 days, "It's the best holiday I've ever had." So, in other words, a free person you cannot incarcerate. And an unfree person is already incarcerated by the sentries, who have usurped, the place of the buddhi as being the sentry. They have hijacked the buddhi, and the ragadveshas have arrested this person. So that is basically the situation. So here, just for fun, because it's more on a surface level. I just said a few extra things, but on the surface level, both of them, leave the house. The arrested person leaves the house because they cannot stay in the house. They have to go stay somewhere else. The sannyasi leaves the house and goes to the ashram. Why? So that they can have some P and Q for meditation upon and contemplation upon the self. And so one leaves out of knowledge and the other leaves because of the knowledge that there is no choice. One leaves out of the knowledge for the self, one leaves because one knows there are no choices, and the other also leaves because they know that there are no choices, but that's where the similarity ends. One chooses a life of conscious choicelessness, and in this matter the other is not given any choice. Very beautiful. And then what? निस्संगता सुखं प्राप्ताः कयाचिद्बोधलीलया गृहन्त्यजन्ति मुनयः गृहस्था वा वने स्थिताः निस्संगता सुखं प्राप्ताः कयाचिद्बोधलीलया गृहन्त्यजन्ति मुनयः गृहस्था वा वने स्थिताः वा वने स्थिताः. Yeah. So then finally he concludes here. The next 3 verses are kind of conclusive, and he says that it's not the question of leaving the house or not. Don't take that as the lakshana. That's not the lakshana. You can either leave the house or stay there, but have the top story in order. Have the viveka and vairagya in place, and that is what is the point. So nissangata is what is important. Nissangata means a kind of a uninvolvement with everything. Asanga, uninvolved. Nissanga, same thing, uninvolved. That nissangataya sukham, nissangata sukham. So the happiness that is arising out of this nissangata, the happiness arising out of this uninvolvement, kayachid bodha leelaya. And what is this uninvolvement? The uninvolvement is, I am just an actor and all these things are happening. The whole thing is a spoof, leela. And in this spoof, the teacher is the biggest spoof. Student, another spoof. Shastra, 3rd spoof. Sitting down to study, 4th spoof. Oh, I think the knowledge is taking place. 5th spoof. Yes, I know. I am. I know what I am, the final spoof. And so, this is what is said even in the shloka, Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. I worship or my salutations to Lord Dakshinamurti, who is all pervasive, whose body is all pervasive and at once not objectifiable like even space. Vyoman means space. Yet that same space like free, all pervasive, non objectifiable Lord appears on the one hand as Ishvara, something unknown, and then Guru, the one who has appointed themselves to teach you about Ishvara, and then Atma, the self that is wanting to know. So these splits are between Jiva, Ishvara, Jagat, or Guru, Shishya, Ishvara, whatever it is, or Shastra, Guru, Shishya. All these splits are what? Superimposition on that space like Atma which is free of all divisions. So these divisions are superimposed. Why? Because of that ignorance which already sees those divisions. So those divisions, especially between Guru, Shishya, Ishvara, is the final division of of the final frontier of this duality. So Kaya means by some Chid Bodha Leela. Chit Bodha, Chitaha Bodha, Chit Bodha. So the knowledge of Chit. Yeah. Why doesn't he say Sat or Ananda? Because it's really at the level of Chit the Mahavakya operates. And listen to this carefully, it's important. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Mahavakya. Why? Because Sat, that all-pervasive presence, that existence which never comes to an end, Ananta, that limitlessness. So how do I relate to that limitlessness? No, that existence is you. Okay, so what? Big deal. And how do I know that existence is me? I have to know, otherwise it's not a big thing at all. So when that Upadesha comes, that existence is you, that you come into the picture, you, an entity that wants to know the I, is brought into the picture. And are you a conscious being or not? Yes, you are a conscious being. You are not trying to know a Sat that is Jatila, that is Jada, that is insentient. So the sentient I wants to know its own nature, and the sentient I is told, you are that Sat which is sentient and free of limitations. So that Jnanam is both common, both for that Brahman, that Ishvara, and also for you. So when you take the qualifications, or the description of Brahman as Satyam Jnanam Anantam, or the description of Atma, same thing, as Sat Chit Ananda. That Chit is where you say, I know that I know, or I know that I don't know, or I know, and or I'm in the process of knowing. Whatever you say, that is that level on which the oneness operates. That's why it becomes a Mahavakya, because is Ishvara a conscious being or a mechanical zombie running the world? Conscious being, because everything is intelligently put together, that consciousness, that knowledge, that intelligence, without the need for the finite upadhi called the mind. That infinite knowledge and is spread in the form of this Jagat. This Jagat is nothing but knowledge. And that infinite existence is manifest only as infinite knowledge. And that knowledge you can see in anything that you take, you see it right here. Flower, why this? Don't know. How that? Don't know. But all we know is when I say flower knowledge is. So people who are botanists can take apart this flower. In fact, I think they've already had a go here. And so they can take apart this flower and analyze each and every petal, to assimilate the flower. The goat will assimilate the flower in a different way, cow, goat, etc. And so there is still, no matter how much you know, there is still more to know. Flower is tantamount to saying flower knowledge is. So this flower is non-existent without knowledge. All there is knowledge, and that knowledge is spread infinitely. And that knowledge is I. How can you say that knowledge is I? Because that knowledge that morphs as though as the knower, and sometimes as the known, and sometimes as the means of knowledge which enables the knower to come together with the known. So that knowledge which as though morphs into, knower, known, means of knowledge. And how can it as though morph? Because it is free from being knower, it is free from being known, and it is free from, not free from being known, but free from having the status of known, and free of being any one thing. No means of knowledge, no knower, no known. And so therefore, this Chit is at that level only the Mahavakya operates. Satyam Jnanam. Because otherwise, if the definition of Brahma was Satyam Anantam, it makes no difference to me. The fact that I connect to it is because this consciousness, which obtains in the form of the mind, is able to understand itself as a conscious being, free of having a particular status. A consciousness that is Ananta, limitless, means beyond the scope of the knower and the known and all the morphing that takes place. The morphing is as though, like even, the waves in the ocean. The ocean itself is a limitless upadhi. And then what? The waves are finite upadhis. One wave called knower, another wave called known, another wave called means of knowledge. They all come and wave and go. But the ocean remains in its glory because they arise out of this ocean. They are sustained by the ocean, and to the ocean they go back. So too this oceanic Chit, has many waves. Thinker, hearer, seer. But the waves are just superimpositions upon that ocean, upon that water. And so, therefore, this Chit Bodha, Chittaha Bodha, Chit Bodha. So, the Bodha of Chit, it has to be a Leela, it has to be a play. Because as soon as I say Bodha of consciousness becomes what? An object or a subject? An object. Can consciousness be an object? No. Then how can the subject know the subject? Because the subject is self-evident. Okay, then I can also become a Purva Pakshi in a trice. If the subject is self-evident, the subject already knows the subject. Yes, then what is the need for your Vedanta? Well, there is such a thing called ignorance. Where is it? Is it in the body? No. Is it in the mind? No. Where is it? It is exactly where that I notion arises. So how can the I notion arise independently out of the body and the mind? Well, it's not independently of the body and the mind, but since the whole thing is a superimposition, we have to say that it is non-separate, and yet it is, separated as it were from the body and the mind. So there is such a thing called existence. It is as though its existence, there is such a thing called ignorance, whose existence can neither be confirmed nor be denied. So it can't be confirmed or denied? No. Then what's the point of eliminating something that cannot be confirmed or denied? Because it's causing problems. Then if it is causing problems, then why not just go for a movie or do something else? Because that has already been done before. See, you can go on and on. There's no end to, there's no end to these kinds of questions and parsing of the words. So this Chit Bodha happens in spite of the mind. Really? Because if you leave the mind in charge, this knowledge, when the mind confronts, it will say a big never mind. I don't think I can do this. You will just not go for it. So this knowledge happens somehow in spite of the mind. That is a miracle. And the other miracle is that it is not an object, so the subject knows the subject, which already the subject knows, but still that subject is subject to ignorance. Even though the self is self-shining, the subject is subject to ignorance. And so the subject has to know the self without objectifying it. Another Leela. And the subject has to understand the self without becoming an object. And for that we have to bring in this, what is that? This unemployable person called Guru, Yeah, unemployed and unemployable. And to teach this, to teach that everything is all one. So why do I need a second to teach me that there is nothing, there is no second? Wait a second. This is, how can this be happening? Because I come in my own way. My infrastructure comes in my own way of knowing, and so I go in a perpetual circle of discontent. And so this guru has to be brought in to show this, through becoming the mouthpiece of the Shastra. The Guru is the microphone of the Shastra, amplifies the Shastra, and then what? Spirits away the ignorance. Oh, you're talking of the as though ignorance? Yes. So then how can the as though be spirited away? As though spirits away. Wait a minute. So as though spirits away the as though ignorance? Yes. Who? The as though Guru. For whom? The as though Shishya. If this is not a Leela, what is? So Leela means what? Leela means it's a play. The whole thing is a play. It's a play of a endless paradoxes. And in these endless paradoxes, the eye shines and plays as though with itself. And the Mundakopanishad says, Saha Atmaratihi, one who is totally in love with oneself. What self? This self. Satyam Jnanam Anantam. Not the narcissistic self, that's not what you're talking about. Atma Kridaha, the one who again plays with oneself, revels. Atma Ramaha, Atma Ratihi, Atma Kridaha. Meaning everything has to do with this only, this self that is already known, that is yet to be known, that which shines by itself, yet the Guru needs a flashlight to show what already shines by itself. Another paradox. And it is as though known, completely known, because I know I am. It is known, but it's not yet completely known, because what I am, don't ask that question, because then all kinds of my whole life story will come out and it's not pretty. So, if I'm already known, then why do I need another? I need another to tell me this, to bridge this gap of duality. I have to create one more duality. And one more duality, this is between Guru Shishya, then Ishvara and the Jiva. Another problem. So Jiva has to know Ishvara, correct? Yeah. So why don't I just know Ishvara? Because Ishvara is not locally available, not an object. So I have to know Ishvara, yes. Then why do I have to worship? Because that is also another Leela. What is the Leela? Here, worshipping is the Leela. I have to go through the motions of worshipping in order to know, in order to see myself as already a prayerful, worshipful being. Which is who? Ishvara. So in order to know I am Ishvara, I have to go through the stages of surrendering my fears and problems, my raga and dvesha, at the feet of this Ishvara, to make it like a two-part thing. So first I surrender, and then I am able to see that oneness. So that oneness comes from an exercise of duality. And same thing with the Jagat. First I have to follow all the laws of the Jagat. Because the Jagat itself is a manifestation of Ishvara, and the laws are manifest Ishvara. They are not mandates, they are manifestations of Ishvara. So I follow all the laws of Jagat. I become a goody two shoes, and then after that what? And I dismiss the Jagat. Rajvam bhujangamaiva pratibhasitam vai. It's just like a serpent upon this rope of that unending consciousness. That's why it is aropa. It's aropified upon the rope. Yeah, it's an adhyasa. And so this adhyasa, in order to, so here I have to live without hurting others, I have to follow all the laws, I have to respect the Jagat as Ishvara, I have to respect other jivas, and since the Jagat is a manifestation of Ishvara, I respect the Jagat, everything is sacred, everything is whole, and then what? Then I say, you don't exist. I tell the whole Jagat, you are gone, poof. So if that was the whole idea, why don't I say right in the beginning you are gone? Because it doesn't work. Leela. Yeah, Leela means it's the biggest mystery here. full of duality, and the person who knows this plays in the duality. So kaya chid bodha leelaya, he says it very casually. Kaya means by some leela. By some leela, here is one more leela, let's not forget the punya to be in this place of gaining this knowledge, that itself is the biggest leela. Because that same punya in the beginning, the Vedanta student must be a punya hog, has to shore up on the punya, because so much papa is there coming in the way of attaining this knowledge, going to classes, sitting in front of the teacher. All these are big miracles, and so to have those miracles, I need the blessings from the past life. So I go and shore up on the punya only to give it all up at the end. What are we, crazy? Yes, says Narahari. But it's a good crazy. Good crazy, because that is how the setup is. That is the whole setup. So all these paradoxes, reveling in the paradoxes, the person somehow gain some. And how this knowledge is gained is also another leela. Before we go further, we have to dwell upon this a little more. How is this knowledge gained? Don't even ask. Because the student comes to class one day, second day, third day, fourth year, fifth year, sixth year, seventh year, and then feels like nothing is happening. Already one feels, I think I'm regressing. I think I'm not just, understanding this. I think this is not okay. I think this is not coming. Still I get angry. Still I get whatever. And so there seems to be this kind of an unending quality to Shishyatvam. How long should I be a Shishya? And then, this whole thing is a leela, because this, even while one is questioning one's worth, and while one is questioning whether one gains the knowledge or not, the knowledge is already taking place. The ignorance is being spirited away. And but you don't yet know that you know. How can I not yet know that I know? That's a leela. So all the punya that has come, that has, and all the things in your last life that you did to come to gain this knowledge, leela. The desire for this knowledge which is already there as the gain of yourself, leela. So kaya chidbodha leelaya. And this whole, the how the knowledge is unfolding, leela. And so the affirming of what is there through an as though mode, everything is as though, that is also leela. And through this leela, kaya, somehow, chidbodha leelaya, through these mechanisms, what happens? Griham tyajanti munayah. The wise people can leave their house, do leave their house. And then who else leaves their house? Grahas, or the same munis live as grihasthas, live as householders, grihe va vane sthitaha. They can remain in their house, or they can repair to the forest. So the munis, the seers, once you become a seer, final paradox, you don't have to leave the house. You leave the house in order to know that you need not have left the house. Unfortunately, that the thief does not come to the same conclusion. The thief is relieved that he has left the house. But here, the final paradox is that you leave everything. Because what are you leaving? Anatma. For the sake of what? Atma. Then the final teaching is what? Anatma is Atma, but Atma is not Anatma. Go figure, right? And so therefore what? Then you realize that there was no need to leave the house. There was no need to leave anything. And so if you realize that, if you understand that, then you can stay in the house or in the forest. It doesn't make any difference. So the first criteria, the only criteria of self-knowledge is not leaving the house. Narahari doesn't want you to think, since there are all these puns about leaving the house, so many categories of people leaving the house, you don't pack your bags now, because that's not the criterion of knowledge or studentship or even vairagya. The criterion is to see the truth of yourself. So the ragatyaga nirnaya, the nirnaya means the ascertainment of the giving up of the likes and dislikes is made through not leaving the house. That's not how it is made. It is made through the asakti for the self. It is made through the intense desire to abide, to know, and to be the self that the Upanishad promises one to be. And for that reason, it is celebrated. And so the leaving the house is a temporary upalakshana. It's a sadhana. That's all it is. It is a particular kind of a sadhana. And then what? Then then the meter changes. मूढ़ं किन्त्यजतु प्रमत्तमनसः मूढः किन्त्यजतु प्रमत्तमनसः प्रमत्त डबल टी मूढः किं त्यजतु प्रमत्तमनसः त्यागेन वा किं फलम् विज्ञः कर्म करोतु वा न कुरुताम् त्यागे विलिप्तो न यत् इत्येवं कृतनिश्चयः प्रवचनैः अद्वैतविद्यावताम् रागत्यागनिरादरो मुनिजनः पारे गिरां खेलति मूढः किं त्यजतु प्रमत्तमनसः You have to stop a little more in pramatta, okay? Moodhah kintyajatu pramatta manasah. Pramatta manasah. Like that. Moodhah kintyajatu pramatta manasah. Kim tyajatu pramatta manasah tyagena va kim phalam Vijñah karma karotu va na kurutam Tyage vilipto nayat इत्येवं कृतनिश्चयः प्रवचनैः अद्वैतविद्यावताम् रागत्यागनिरादरो मुनिजनः पारे गिरां खेलति Yeah, so very beautiful verse. Moodhaha, we know this person, correct? Yeah. Who is that? A person who is deluded, deludable and deluded. So kim tyajatu pramatta manasaha. So the pramatta manasaha means the person full of tamas. Yeah, pramatta means the one who is always making mistakes. missed take, really. So even if you tell the person doesn't understand, so if such a person you make them study this section, what will they give up? What are they likely to relinquish? And if the Moodha relinquishes, what phalam will he get or she get out of this relinquishing? What is the fruit of the deluded one's relinquishing? Is there a fruit? No. If the deluded one, the one whose priorities are deluded, the one who doesn't know why this relinquishing is taking place, and if you force that person to relinquish, they'll just get angry. What is the phalam? No phalam. There is no phalam except they may turn into kruddha, talked about earlier. The one that leaves the house in anger. So, there is no phalam, there is no fruit to the deluded. This is again full of paradoxes. That the deluded one is able to renounce, is not a big thing. Why? Because what will they renounce? Because they don't even know what to renounce. So what are they going to renounce? They'll renounce the wrong things, correct? They'll renounce nitya karma, they'll renounce cleaning the house, because they'll renounce all the things that should be done properly in order to gain emotional maturity. So then with such renunciation of all the wrong things, they'll renounce shower, first thing. Why? What's the point? I have great vairagya. No need for shower. That's the first thing. Then second one, brushing teeth. And all kinds of personal hygiene is renounced because the deluded one was told, develop vairagya. So they go to some extreme because they are deluded. So if you tell the Moodha to renounce, very interesting, what will they renounce? And the second, again a second rhetorical question that is asked is, okay, so let's say they do renounce something, what is the fruit of this renunciation? Because if the person with viveka renounces, at least there is some fruit. That viveka person renounces, then there is this fruit because there is chitta shuddhi, there is place for the knowledge to come, all these things are there. And here the Moodha renounces, there is no fruit. And then what will the Moodha renounce? All the wrong things anyway. You're not going to, renounce the correct things. And 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, please read. It is just, beautiful, because kim tyajyam, kim nat tyajyam. What should be renounced, what should not be renounced is given right in the beginning. And then what? So this is with the Moodha. Moodha means the ignorant one and the one who wants to remain ignorant, therefore deluded. Because the one who doesn't know, it's not just a simply ignorant person, because anybody coming to the knowledge is already ignorant. Here the difference is deluded and doesn't know that one is ignorant of the self and doesn't care that one is ignorant of the self because deluded. They don't understand the connection between self-ignorance and samsara. So such a person, what will they renounce even if they are told? They'll renounce the wrong things. And then what fruit will come out of that renunciation? Zero fruit. Two rhetorical questions. And then the third rhetorical question is Vijñaha. So the Moodha is contrasted with the Vijñaha, the knowing person. Then okay, now let's give this shiksha, this teaching. So this teaching is not the teaching of Ragatyaga Nirnayaha. See, he's subverting his whole section. He's subverting his own section here. Section 6 is being completely subverted at the end in true Narahari style. So he says, who is this teaching for? That one should give up Ragadveshas and one should give up in order to gain the self. Who is this teaching for? If it is for the deluded one, of what use is this teaching? Because the deluded one is going to leave all, leave out of delusion, all wrong things. No, it's for the person who knows. Vijñaha, the person who knows, does it make a difference whether they leave or not? No. So, Vijñaha karma karotu vana kurutam. So, whether the deluded person is engaged in action or not, na viliptaha is not, affected, is not afflicted, is not tainted, is not colored in any way. So, Vijnaha Tyage, so the person, is the one who is the wise person. Tyage means the one who is in renunciation. Whether they renounce action or not makes no difference. Iti evam kritanishchayah. So who is the real, will the real Jnani please stand up? The real Jnani is iti evam, in this manner, the one who is dhrida nishchayah, means of certain understanding that it's the giving up is a means to an end, the giving up is not an end in itself. So the one who understands Tyaga in this manner, that whether it is Mudha, the deluded person, or the knowing person, whether they give up or not, makes no difference, really. Just like the thief had a lot of things in common with the sannyasi, here the Mudha and the Vijna also have a lot in common. They both give up, and then both of them, whether they give up or not, they don't have, it makes no difference. That's what it is. So it's a very beautiful word play here. So the one who sees the difference between the two, iti evam kritanishchayah, through what? How do you know the difference between the Vijna and the Mudha? Go to classes. Narahari says, go to Bodhasara classes. You will learn very quickly. Advaita pravachanaihi, through the pravachanas, by listening to pravachans, discourses of Advaita. By the Mudha? No. Vidyavatam, by the ones endowed with knowledge. Don't go to the deluded one's discourse, because you will be off course, of course. And so therefore what? Go to the ones who know and who will be able to, by their talks on non-duality, you will be able to see the difference between the two. Kritanishchayah means decidedly. Decidedly you will be able to see the difference between the two, and you will not make the mistake of looking at their actions. Because the final parody is what? Mudha also gives up. Cleaning the house, brushing the teeth, taking a shower, helping other people. Vijna also gives up. What is the difference? No difference really on one level, because the Vijna is not, the Mudha is not getting the phala of the renunciation, and is, before Mudha, now also Mudha. And if the Vijna gives up anything, before Vijna, now also Vijna. So how do you get from Mudha to Vijna? Go to Bodhasara classes. Regularly attend them. Because then, when the knowledge is understood, at the hands of one who is a Vidyavan, Vidyavan, sixth case, plural, Vidyavatam. So at the hands of the knowers of this, and through what? Through the discourses on Advaita pravachanaihi, what happens? Then, Ragat, then you understand this. And what is it that you understand? Ragatyaga niradaraha. Niradaraha means they have complete disregard for the desire to renounce. Who? Munijanaha, the seers. So the seers, ironically and paradoxically, they don't talk about, the best of them don't talk about renunciation in a very rigid and, kind of a, watertight way. And Pujya Swamiji is the only example I can give. Because people would come, people with extreme desire to renounce. I'm going to give up this. No, keep doing. No, I'm going to give up that. Keep doing. I'm going to have this, I'm going to let go of this. No, keep it with you. Change your orientation. That's what he would always teach. Change your orientation, change your attitude to what you have. You can own many things, but you need not possess any of them. So, he would make you see that it's not just giving up, walking away that's going to accomplish this. Living in everything, living as the self, that is the whole thing. Being of this world, being in this world but not completely involved in it, that is what one had to do. So, So raga tyaga, so this desire to renounce can also come in the way and keep you into a mudha if it's just taken in a very what is that? Cliched way. If you're understanding it can be extremely cliched. Oh, okay, I have to join the order. So what do I have to do? Leave the house. Point 1. Point 2, shave off the head. Point 3, get into white. And point 4, find a teacher. Enroll in the zenitentiary. And then point 6, don't allow myself to have any happiness in any way, at any times, through anything connected to the sense, organs and the objects. Point 6, become frustrated. Point 7, become deluded. This is like a kind of a cliched version. And then the one who has viveka sees the importance and the benefit of these practices without looking at them as an end in itself, seeing them as a means to an end. And once gaining this knowledge, it doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't matter what you do, and then you can be in complete disregard of the very practices that helped you attain whatever was already yours to begin with. So niradaraha means complete disregard for this tyaga, which is what is there. So we'll finish the last one. Ityayam yoga yuktanam ragatyaga vinirnayah tyajataiva hi tadnyeyam iti vedanta dindimah. No, iti vedanta nirnayat. When the iti comes, and then the word Vedanta is there, immediately you go to Vedanta dindimah. Yeah. One more time, let us chant this and then we'll look at this. Ityayam yoga yuktanam ragatyaga vinirnayah tyajataiva hi tadnyeyam iti vedanta nirnayat. Yeah. So, iti ayam yoga yuktanam ragatyaga vinirnayah. So, he concludes a very important conclusion, and now that makes us a conclusion that makes us feel that we should not have skipped section 5. Because he says that this ragatyaga, ragasya tyaga, or tyage ragaha, whichever way we take it. So this desire to give up, or this desire for the self which makes one give up, has to be accomplished only after karma yoga has to be ascertained. Yoga yuktana, which yoga? It's not to someone who is supple bodied and can stand on the head and wave their legs in the air. That's not the person we are talking about. Yoga here is equipped with karma yoga. So when are you qualified to give up? You are qualified to give up when you don't need to give up. When you are not running away, then you are qualified to give up. Flight is not flight, giving up from flight is mudha. Mudha, this is what the mudha does. Mudha gives up because sick of it, correct? Yeah. And then pretends to be Vignya and then troubles others also. Yeah, then you have another big Mudha Parampara. And so, this giving up cannot be, this is the final paradoxy of giving up. The paradox of giving up is that you can only give up after you have accomplished karma, then you can give up karma. After you have accomplished worship, then you can give up the duality between you and Ishvara. After you have accomplished the marriage, then you can outgrow it. Not because you can't get along with a significant other. And then after you have accomplished taking care of the children, then, don't worry, they will only give you up. You don't have to give them up. And then you will be wondering where they are, and they will not be wondering where you are. Children give lots of vairagya. Great, huge amounts. Yeah, they prepare you for this knowledge so that the knowledge takes place in an instant. And so, therefore, so all this, and when can you give up the house? When not because you don't want to pay taxes. That is the ashram is not a tax shelter. I'll give up the taxes and then go sit in the ashram and then, no. It's not a tax haven. It's not the Bahamas. Yeah. That I just go there and give up everything. No. You give up the house when you don't really want to give up the house. And you give up things only when they naturally outgrow you or when you outgrow them. Yeah, like a t-shirt. The child shoots up. Suddenly it's this much and suddenly it is that much. And so the t-shirt is given up because it has outgrown the t-shirt, not because it hates the t-shirt, not because it's of anything else. The t-shirt is just fine, it's not even particularly old. It still may have a few years, but not on this body, on some other body perhaps, because it doesn't fit. Similarly, with the help of Karma Yoga, doing what one needs to do, keeping Ishvara in view. See what a nice rhyme. Doing what one needs to do, keeping Ishvara in view. Yeah, one line verse, poem on Karma Yoga. Keeping Ishvara in view, dedicating what needs to be done to Ishvara, training oneself rather to receive what comes with a tinge of what? Acceptance, with a tinge of being cheerful, learning to receive that with equanimity and growing and keeping the knowledge in the forefront. Along with Ishvara, the knowledge is the priority. And then all the relationships, all the other activities are subsumed for the sake of this knowledge. And so all the other activities and relationships in one's life serve to make one, to grow out of the very entanglements that one is feeling bothered by. So that is what the whole purpose is. Children make you grow, everything makes you grow, everyone makes you grow. And so stay in it as long as the growth is taking place, and you don't have to leave house, it will just happen. Things will drop off. And you wait till the things drop off, rather than trying to be the mover and the shaker of the vairagya. Let it come, and that is what is. This last verse is the summary of that beginning verse in the fifth verse, I think, of the fifth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Sanyasastu mahabaho dukkhamaptum ayogatah yoga yukto munir brahma na chirena adhigacchati. So this renunciation is very difficult to accomplish. Dukkham aptum, for who? Ayogatah, for the one not equipped already with karma yoga. The one whose insides, the psyche is not prepared, the inner instrument is not prepared to let the small stuff go while living with those things. The one is not prepared. And so running away is not going to accomplish anything at all. The running away is not going to accomplish anything except give you one more complex. That I have run away. That's one more complex. And so therefore what? So therefore this dukkham aptum ayogatah, whereas yoga yuktah munihi brahma gacchati. Whereas the sage, and the same word munihi was used. That's why I remembered this verse. In the last verse, the verse muni, The sage, the contemplative person, the one who contemplates, dwells on these kinds of things, understands very clearly. And what does the person understand? The person understands without a shadow of a doubt. What? That this here is living among the things is practicing Vairagya. So the practice of Vairagya is living with those very things that bother one all the time, 24/7. Really? Yes, because that is the road to Brahman. Brahma gacchati when? Na chirena. Lord Krishna is very diplomatic. What does he say? Not too long from now. Tomorrow? Not too long. Today? Perhaps by the 4 o'clock class. Who knows? I mean, we are not ruling out any possibilities. Shvetashvatara is powerful. Could happen. But chirena, na chirena, not too long hence, the person will get this and understand this. How? Why? Because they have grown internally. So the ragatyaga, don't be in a rush to leave everything. Iti Vedanta Nirnayat. So this is the conclusion of Vedanta, regardless of your conclusion. You come from this understanding, and then that is what is meant. Tyajati, Tyajati eva means the person only from renunciation can gain this knowledge. Tat jneyam. So the knowledge can be gained from renunciation is meant what? Renouncing everything. Renouncing what? Not everything, but your reactions to everything while remaining in the same place. Don't go for outside frills of renunciation, such as color of clothes, such as where one is living, such as leaving the house, etc. Those are all outside frills of renunciation. Have inner renunciation. So this is really the message of the Gita, a very wonderful section. And the next time, I think we know the dates, 12th of February or something. This class will meet again on the 12th of February. And I'm tempted to skip section 7. Yeah, I think we'll skip section 7 and go to Satsanga Sudha. Sudha means the ambrosia of Satsang. Let us see what the ambrosia of Satsang is, and that then we see a wonderful section, a very beautiful section. Samanvaya Saraswati. How does the goddess Saraswati abide in the person of knowledge, and how she gives the gift of Samanvaya, assimilation of the non-contradictory nature of the various Vedas. This is coming from the Sutra, the 4th Brahma Sutra, Tattu Samanvayat. Samanvaya means the assimilation and seeing the non-contradiction of the Upanishads, with regard to one another. Internal contradictions are not there. I see that and revel in that absence and look at the Ekavakyata, and anything from outside cannot also contradict because it is an independent means of knowledge. So Samanvaya Saraswati, beautiful. Goddess Saraswati abiding as the very Samanvaya. So these are some things we have to look forward to in February. But right now, what do we have to look forward to? 4 o'clock Shvetashvatara Upanishad, a few hours from now. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate
Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate.
Om
Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yeah, 13th of Feb, yes. Correct. That's what the website says, so please go with the website. And yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed the class, and it's nice to see all of you. Very good. Wonderful. Any questions? How are you? How is your health? Okay?
Heart is getting stronger.
Ah, good.
Yeah.
Very nice to hear that.
catch the one that is not
Head is not strong enough.
strong enough.
It'll come. It'll get there.
Trying to coop up with all this environment from the outside.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what this section is all about. How to not be affected by the environment. Yeah. You will get there. No problem.